Hi guys, I'm Amy with Creatively Yours Design Studio, and I do custom home decor and DIY craft parties, and I do some of the craft classes that have been held over at Tailored Vinyl. And so I thought I'd go over with you guys one of the last projects one of the last classes that we did at Tailored Vinyl before this wonderful pandemic hit, and it was the string art design right here. Hopefully you'll be able to make this with supplies lying around your house, because it is fairly simple. It is a little tedious sometimes because it's a lot of nails that you have to nail in, but the end result is really, really pretty. So what you would do is you would go and you design some kind of stencil on your Cricut or Silhouette based on your wood. For the class, I used a thicker piece of wood. This is probably an 1.5 inch, 2-inch piece of wood, so that it would stand by itself. But you can also use a thinner piece of wood, just as long as it's thick enough for the nail to be able to go through and not come out the other side, but still have a good portion of it that sticks up. You'll also need a pair of needle nose pliers, a hammer, and these little wire nails. They come in a package like this. I bought them at Walmart. They're like 97 cents for the wire nails, and then like $1.97 for the stainless steel ones. The wire ones work just perfectly. And what I bought were 18 gauge 3/4 inch. They also come in 1 inch. Just be careful of the size of the wood that you have to make sure that it's actually not going to go through the wood that you're using. So here's what the nail looks like. It is just a little bitty nail, and that one went through the cracks of my porch. But again, at Walmart, most of these supplies you can actually find at Walmart. The thread that I use for the project is this Aunt Linda's crochet thread, but you can also use good old embroidery floss or embroidery thread that comes in a little skein like this. You would probably need at least 2 to be able to do some kind of design. So I want to share with you some of the tips and tricks that I've learned in doing this and doing these different projects to hopefully make it a little bit easier for you. So the way that you would do it is you would first get your piece of wood, whether you have a stained or non-stained piece of wood. In the class we had several people that didn't use a stained piece of wood, and it turned out really, really pretty. To make that determination of what color your wood should be, it's got to be like a combination of your wood and your thread. So whatever color thread that you have, you want to make sure that it's going to pop off of that wood. So if you want to go with the fail-safe method, dark and light is great. So I stained the boards, really sugar. I stained the boards dark, and then I added a off-white or cream-colored crochet thread on top of it. But you could also do the reverse and do a white board with dark colored thread. And this thread comes in a bunch of different colors. There's some variegated ones that change different colors as you wind them. I had some people do the variegated colors in class, and it was really, really pretty. And there's even some metallic ones. Walmart has a limited selection of these, so if you go to pick up groceries, you can just swing over to the craft department and pick up most of the stuff that you need for this little project. But I would bet you have a bunch of it lying around your house. So you'll want to prep your wood for whatever paint color you want to use. Once you do that, you're going to create your stencil using your either Cricut or Silhouette or whatever cutter that you use for vinyl. And I choose to use the Orcal 651 for this particular project. And I take that vinyl and I just lay it across the wood. And we could do a video or another video on actually how to apply the vinyl stencils to wood, but I'm sure most of you know how to do that already. This, as you can see, is a little bit bigger piece of wood, so I had to use the longer mat to cut mine on my Cricut, but these are little 8x8 blocks, so you could get a 12x12 sheet from Tailored Vinyl for 90 cents, and it's a quick, easy, cheap little project. So you'll lay your stencil down, and some tips about stenciling, picking the best stencil to be able to use. Simple shapes are the best, the ones with a lot less like curves and little divots and that kind of stuff are a little bit better. So like for my B that I chose over here, it's a very simple straight B. It doesn't have a lot of the little serif marks that come off to the side and make it a little bit more fancy. So I'm gonna advise you that simpler is better in this particular instance. And both of these projects were done in an inverse. So that means that the stained part, the wood part, is the design, and then I covered up my background with the thread to make it stand out. This project that I'm doing with my last name on it, I'm doing the reverse of this. So rather than going around the edges and adding a layer, I am just going to wrap my thread through each of the letters and make my design through the name, rather than going around the edge. Honestly, it's a lot of nails and I really don't feel like spending that much time doing it. This has already taken me a good little bit to do. So you'll lay your stencil down using your Oracal 651 vinyl, and then you will start nailing your nails. Okay, let's get ready to nail some nails here. I changed my camera angle to hopefully give you a little bit better viewpoint of what I'm actually doing when I'm nailing these babies in. And I also saw that I should give you a close-up of what the nails actually are. Basically, they're wire nails, and it's a nail with a head on it, and it's a flat head. There are some brad nails out there that don't have this type of head on it, and they won't work because your thread will slip straight off. So what I'm gonna do when I nail these little guys in is I'm gonna take the nail and put it into the tip of my needle nose pliers. And I do this because I put it in the tip because I have a little bit more control of it, and I place it kind of where I want it to be, and I am honestly just eyeballing them at this point. Give it a little tap in, and then I take my needle nose pliers and put it to where I want it to be and nail it the rest of the way in. And repeat. So I'll go to the next spot, and you can see my stencil's kind of it kind of goes up in a curve, and I'm going to try and keep that pattern a little bit. This is, like I said, this is a little bit more of a complex pattern, but I'm hoping it'll give you guys the idea of how to be able to do this. So I get it in there a little bit, and then I send that nail all the way down my needle nose pliers to where I have this mark. And this is my mark just to kind of guide myself, because if I put all my nails at this height and do them at this width, they'll be pretty consistent. But this project actually lets you have a little leeway whenever you're working with the nails, and it doesn't have to be exactly perfect whenever you're doing them. You can have some nails that are close together, some that are further apart. You just want to be like pretty consistent. One of the other things that I will show you too, so while you're nailing so this is one of the projects that I've already done. You can see that on this side, my nails are pretty close together, but on this side they're further apart. And so I have a little bit more space between my letters over here, which I'm okay with because of the design of because of the way that it goes in for the B, whereas this is a little bit more dense over here. So if you want a denser looking project, use more nails. If you want something of this a little bit more airy, use less nails. And then that will kind of, and that's totally personal preference on how dense and how thick you actually want it to be. I will tell you that whenever you do it thicker, it does take quite a few nails, and it takes quite a bit of patience to be able to put all these nails in. So that may be something that you want to consider. So I am going to keep on nailing and nailing and nailing and try and get through the rest of the nails on here, and I'll meet you at the end. Okay, so I went through and I got all my nails put in place. I've got everything set like I need to. Now, before I start weaving my thread, I need to go and remove all of the stencil because it would be too difficult once I got the string down to try and remove it. One of the things that I've learned too, that it's also a little helpful to have the stencil or a copy of the stencil that you use so that you can refer back to it, because sometimes whenever you pull the stencil out of here, it becomes a little bit difficult to be able to see the pattern on your nails. So it may be helpful for you to have like a written pattern or the written original stencil, so that you can see exactly what you were trying to accomplish with your nails whenever you were putting them in. So I'm going to remove this, and then I will catch back with you, and we will string some string then. Okay, now that we've gotten our 651 stencil or our adhesive stencil removed from our design, it's time to start wrapping our crochet thread around each of our letters. There's two ways to start doing this. You can actually just take it, and if you're good, you can just tie a knot around the head of one of the nails and start going. Or if you want a little bit stronger of a knot, see, I can still kind of pull that out. If I want a stronger, more secure knot, you can do a slip knot and make that slip knot stay. Well, look, that one's going to stay now, and just to make sure it's going to stay, I am going to double knot it. So rather than make it difficult, let's just stick with that knot. Now becomes the fun part. We're going to take the tail of our thread that is still connected to the bolts or the skein down here, and holding it kind of tight, you're going to want to wrap around each one of your nail heads. My B on burger is separate from the rest of the word, so I'm going to wrap that letter first, and then we'll continue on to the rest of them. One thing that you'll see, a couple tricks whenever you're wrapping this, it is helpful to kind of have your index finger go along with it, and then as you wrap, push down. You will also have in places that you have a bend or a turn in your letter where you might make multiple wraps on one particular nail. It will be more of an anchor nail. It will have more thread on it than maybe some of your other nails. And then sometimes, like that nail right there, I think it's kind of extra, or it could have been like a little bit different of a design. So I'm just going to kind of go over it and have it part of my design. You'll see too that I'm going back and forth between the two nails. So my suggestion to you is, whenever you start making your first initial wrap, I would just go side to side, rather like from left to right, rather than making straight lines around this way. So that's what you want to avoid doing for your first few rounds. Later on, once you get a pretty good base built for your letter, you can go back and once you get a pretty good base down for your letters, you may want to go back and do an outline, so where you wrap the edges, that would define your letters just a little bit more. And see how I'm using my weeding tool to push this down, but if you've got a pair of scissors, or even I've used the pliers before too to push it down. So I'm just gonna go back and forth and create my B. You'll notice too that I've got a pretty good tension on here. You want your thread to be kind of tight, and sometimes that does happen. So when you let it go, it ends up popping all the way off, and you just have to go back and do more. So you can probably hear that I am outside. The weather is just too gorgeous right now to be stuck inside, so I have chosen to do this outside where it's nice and beautiful. So normally, if I wasn't videoing, I'd stick a book in my ear and be listening to a book while I actually easier if you do a slip knot for this one, and so you can do that by taking the top. So this is the piece that has been wrapped around all my nails. This is the piece that is still connected to my skein over here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece that's still connected to my skein, bring it up underneath into that hole that I'm holding. And I'm going to make a loop. I can never get it there. Okay, so now I've got a loop here that I've made, and I'm going to tighten this stuff down. And this too, again, is another slip knot. So in theory, I should be able to take it and wrap it around. See, I've got that slip knot still right here, And then I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it down onto, this is one of the trickier parts of this craft, onto a nail here. Actually, I really don't want to use that nail because it's got so much on there. Oh, there it goes. And then I'll tighten up on the piece that is on the skein. For good measure, I try and do it again, just so that it has a double knot in it. So again, another slip, actually. I'll take it and cut my, so right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it away from the skein so that I've got an actual tail so that I can tie just a regular knot around this nail head to secure it one more time. And then I'm left with this little tail. You'll notice that the tail that we started with is buried somewhere down in here, so I don't even have to worry about it. And then you will use your weeding tool or a toothpick or scissors or whatever you can get your hands on to kind of push this tail up underneath all these other threads. So I've almost got it through here. Tweezers might be handy here too. Alright, so I've got that pulled through there, and I'm going to do it one more time down here where I can get it in somewhere. What you want to be careful to do is not pop any of your threads that you have pulled around any of your nails down here, because then that would cause the whole thing to come undone. I'm going to cut this down a little bit and pull it back through here. Should have grabbed those a long time ago. And I'll cut this real close. And since that tail is underneath, it should stay pretty well underneath my design for the rest. So this is by no means perfect, but it gives you an idea of how to be able to wrap them. And so I will spend some time completing my ERGER, and show you the finished product when I am done. Okay, I have finished my ERGER, and I've got my threads all the way through, and I'm going to attempt to tie this off again, and I would like to show you hopefully an easier way to do it. So if you take your thread, and you make a circle, and you put the tail end of your thread through that circle. I've already cut my end off just to make it easier, so I had it easier to work with. And then I'm going to take it, I'm going to pick one of these nails. I'm going to go up a little bit, down on that one. I'm going to pick this nail right here, loop it across the head, and then tighten up on it. Okay, and for good measure, I'm going to do it again. Again, make my circle for my knot. And then rather than trying to tie it around the head, I make my, like make the knot on the head, I do it afterwards. All right, then I'm going to take my tail again and slide it through underneath my threads so it hopefully hides it. It's fun trying to pick the exact right one. didn't go all the way down to the bottom this time. Through. And go under again. Cut my little tail off as close as I can so that it's hidden down in here. And this was my beginning tail that's down here. I'm gonna snip that one off. And voila, we've got a finished string art project. I hope you enjoy doing one of your own. I would suggest that you start off, if it is your first string art, that you start off with a smaller project, because this one was pretty time intensive and a little bit difficult whenever you're dealing with these kind of loops and stuff. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. My name is Amy Berger. I'm with Creatively Yours Design Studio. My phone number is 713-855-1972. Thanks so much.